How's everybody doing? It's Joe here from Wippercast, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Incineroar GX. So, first of all, hope everyone had a good pre-release with the new cards. I'm super excited for this set, as you may have been able to guess by the multitude of new deck analysis that I've been putting out lately. Second of all, I'd like to preface this by saying that this is not a top tier deck. I don't think Incineroar is great right now. It could be in the future, but it can still pull through in some really weird scenarios and give you like some awesome win conditions. It's able to pull out some really crazy victories, honestly, and it's a good comeback deck as well. Once you get one Incineroar set up, he's incredibly difficult to knock out, let alone two of them. And I think that's one of the best strengths about this deck, is the combination of Incineroar and Max Potion, and trying to find the best basic fire types to throw on the bench for it. So, anyway, let's get into the deck analysis. And, yeah. So obviously we're going to start off with the Incineroar line. We're going to run... There's still a few proxies in this deck, by the way. I didn't pull everything I needed yet at the pre-release. Anyway, we're running a 4-2-3 line of Incineroar. So 4 Litten, 2 Torracat, and 3 Incineroar GX. Sounds like a weird enough line. So far I found this to be, weirdly enough, the most consistent. Like, I dropped an Incineroar. I used to have it at 4 Incineroar GX. I felt like I didn't need that, because once I got one set up, I felt I had enough time with that one to get the other set up. And sure enough, yeah, my consistency hasn't dropped after dropping a single copy of Incineroar GX, so 3 it is. What does he do? First of all, let's get into that. For 1 energy, he has Hustling Strike, which does 10 damage times the number of plus 20 more for each fire Pokemon on your bench. The big strength about this is that it costs a single basic fire energy and you have 250 HP. This means your combination with Max Potion is insanely good. You're able to keep this thing alive for plenty of turns. People will be 3-shotting this. A lot of decks will be 3-shotting this, particularly like Ninetales EX. Considering that you've got 250 HP and 1 energy on you, that's very difficult to overcome. You've got plenty of... so that alone is a great asset to have. You're never hitting huge numbers with the Hustling Strike. You're usually 2-shotting stuff. There's a decent amount of grass Pokemon in the format right now, which helps, but you're not really ever going to be hitting crazy numbers. 110, 130 seems to be about average for Incineroar GX. In early game, you're looking at maybe a little bit less than that. But it's all about 2-shotting things while you're tanking a bunch of hits yourself. So anyway, also we have Tiger Swing, which does 80 damage plus 50 more on 2 coin flips. This is a terrible attack. This is a really terrible attack. The only matchup where Tiger Swing is useful is Decidueye. So, Decidueye has 240 HP, which is a huge number. And sometimes you're not actually able to hit that with Hustling Strike. Like, if you're only hitting 110 with Hustling Strike, that's not enough. That's only 220. You're not KOing the Decidueye GX, which is crazy. So one thing you can do to sort of shift that back in your favor is if you use Tiger Swing, you can flip 1 heads, and that's enough to kill a Decidueye GX, and then you still haven't committed to your GX attack at that point, so you're still able to use multiple Tiger Swings. I think that's the only time you ever want to use this, but it's nice that it's there, I guess. Anyway, for the same attack cost of 2 fire and a colorless, you can use Burning Slam GX. This does 200 damage and your opponent's Pokemon is now burned. It's great because it'll clear pretty much anything that's in the active spot. It's a guaranteed 220 thanks to the new burn rules. It's not that great in hindsight, because against a few things like in the mirror, for example, this will never come up. I don't know who's going to be playing Incineroar mirrors in the near future, but you're not hitting enough damage to actually take care of it. Even something like a Lapras GX with a Fury Belt, 220 isn't enough. They'll heal that off with Rough Seas, and well, that's a terrible matchup anyway, I assume, unless you're running weakness policies, but the point is, it's difficult to hit that number. It can clear most things, but there's some things it doesn't, but it's nice to know that you have the option, basically. So, anyway, 4-2-3, that's the line we were going for. So, as always with these videos, I'm going to have to double check that they fit in the camera. Yeah, that's fine. I didn't even start with Litten in Sun and Moon. I was a Rowlet kind of guy. Yeah, so I think it's a powerful card. I just don't think... I think it's definitely worth testing, and it's definitely worth putting the time into making a deck for, as I've done here, and I like to think that this will be one of the most well thought out Incineroar lists out there, and it should definitely get better after the new Oranguru is released, which is a basic fire type that, for 1 energy, lets you search your deck for 3 basic fire types and put them on your bench. That's a great attack. That's a great early game attack, and even if you're just like chaining Orangurus, that's pretty great too. So, one of the big questions with Incineroar is what kind of partners do you want to run with it? So there aren't a whole lot of like fantastic basic fire types in the format at the moment. So you have to get a little bit creative with how you play this thing. I'll go through some other options that I'm not playing at the end of this. Once I've finished my current Pokemon line, I'll tell you some other Pokemon that you can include if you feel like it. There's plenty of alright options. Nothing super amazing, but let's go for it anyway. We've got 2 Vulpix and 1 Ninetales. So, Ninetales is the Barrier Shrine ability, which means each player can play a Stadium card from his or her hand. This is fantastic. This is a really good thing to have. It lets you keep your Sky Field in play, which means that you're able to consistently hit for big numbers. It stops your opponent from playing Parallel City, which could otherwise really hinder you in well, actually any matchup, because either side of Parallel City is going to hurt you. Yeah, this is a really good Pokemon to have. Why am I running a 2-1 line? I don't want to run a 2-2 because it's not something that you get into play immediately. It's not something that you want to just get down straight away. You need to time it right. It's nice to have a Vulpix on the bench, which is why there's 2 of them. It's simple, it's got a 1 retreat cost, there's no real reason for us not to have it on the bench. It adds damage to Incineroar, but we don't always want to evolve it like whenever we have the Ninetales. We'd rather like time it right so that we play Skyfield and then we play Barrier Shrine to keep it in play that way. Also, maybe we want to get rid of a Garbodor first before we do that to sort of clear the path for Ninetales. So you don't want to just drop it instantly and start getting it into play because I think that's a bad idea. Yeah, your point is, the reason there's only 1 is because I just don't want to be going too fast with it. So that's why I think 2-1 is the correct count. 1-1 also works a little bit, but I like having the insurance of having a Vulpix on the bench at all times. So even if it gets knocked out, I can just Super Rod back in the Ninetales and then, you know, Ultra Ball it back. So I think 2-1 is the correct count of it, and I definitely think it's one of the best bench sitters that you can have with Incineroar. Also running is probably my favourite basic to run with it. This is what makes the most sense to me. 2 copies of Flareon EX. You only need 1. There's 2 copies in case it's surprised, because I feel like it is the best bench sitter. I don't want to risk just running the 1. Also, if you have the full art, please don't play that. It creeps the hell out of me. The regular one is just fine. So we have the ability Flash Fire, which lets you move a fire energy from one of your Pokemon to this Pokemon. So one of the best combos, like I was saying with Incineroar, is Max Potion. This means that instead of having to discard the energy on Incineroar, we can just move it onto Flareon and conserve it that way. And then Max Potion the newly free Incineroar, attach another energy to that and keep going. This allows us to conserve our energy better. It means if we do get Parallel Cities, we can come in with this and still hit big numbers. It's just a really good Pokemon, honestly. I'm attacking with it quite often. Blaze Ball does 50 damage plus 20 more for each fire energy attached to Flareon. It just makes the most sense to me as a partner for Incineroar. It's had the best synergy with it, and it's the one that I've been enjoying using the most, and gotten the most productive use out of. So that's why there's 2 copies of it. 1 Houndoom EX. This is, maybe not... Okay, this like slot, I think there's like 3 different cards you can run in this slot that are all arguably okay. Houndoom is one of them, in my opinion. I think Houndoom is my favorite one right now. So Melting Horn just says discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. This is like Bunnelby and a few other decks, the way you sort of sneak it in just in case your opponent has a low deck size, and then you deck them out. Incineroar actually sort of does this more often than you'd think, because it's such a bulky Pokemon, your games last sort of quite long. Which means that your opponent runs out of cards at some point in the game. Out of all the different basic fire types you could include in this slot, I think Houndoom has given me the most options to win a game. Like, compared to something like Entei, which I don't think is a great attacker in the deck, Houndoom gives me this completely different win condition that does actually come up more often than you'd think. So, I like having Melting Horn here. Potentially you can tank a hit with it as well. You can keep going with the Max Potion, so you could potentially get it off like 2-3 Melting Horns at the end of a game and just win that way. Which I think is, honestly, that alone makes it worth the slot. I'll try and organize these a bit better. Let's see. Yeah, that should be fine. So we're playing 1 Volcanion. Baby Volcanion. We got no Volcanion EX in this. Unfortunately, its ability only works for basic fire types, which means we can't be powering up Incineroar GX's attack with Steam Up, which would be really great if we could, but we can't, so what can you do? Volcanion here is here for Power Heater. We basically use it a bit like Dark decks use Baby Yveltal to sort of get energy back into play. It comes up every now and then, especially because we're playing Max Potion so much. We run 1 Pokemon that is not a fire type, which decreases our damage by 20, and Power Heater gets us that extra 20 if we need it. It's just another way of... we can finish people off with this, basically, is what I'm saying. Because we can't hit 170 if we drop our non-fire type, but Volcanion can let us get to that 170, and it can reattach some energies. It's great with Flareon as well, because you can just attach one energy to a Flareon, one energy to something that isn't Flareon, and then just move it next turn with Flareon's ability. So, no, I like the Volcanion. I've definitely been using it, and it can probably tank a hit as well, just given its HP. And finally, we're playing one Oranguru. Now, this is the second deck where you'll see me playing no Shaman and just a single copy of Oranguru. Why is this? First of all, I did actually get one, and it looks so much better than the one I photocopied, I have to say. But Instruct allows us to draw up to 3 cards once per turn. So, the reason I'm playing this over Shaman is because with Shaman, you play it once, it's on your bench, and then I can't get rid of it, and it just sort of stays there. And I've gotten a great effect out of it once, but it's sort of useless every turn after that. I felt like I wanted to get the most use out of that one bench slot, and Oranguru is definitely what I think gets that. It's been the most useful for me definitely so far. Sometimes, occasionally early game, Shaman will be better than Oranguru, just because it will draw you a couple more cards. I've had no problems with Orangarus though so far. We also run a high count of Nest Ball in addition to a high count of Ultra Ball, so we're more likely to draw into the Oranguru. I think I'd rather get continuous use out of it as opposed to a one-time burst of speed. So it's up to you which one you want to run. I think you can only afford to run one of them, and I won't blame anyone for playing a Shaman EX over Oranguru, but I think the Monkey works just fine. So the other options you can run in this deck, first things first, I actually have one here, is Entei with Combat Blaze. It does, for 2 fire energy, does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon with a 20 base. This is alright, it just doesn't really come up very often. I have 2 good attackers in Incineroar and Flareon that I never feel like Combat Blaze gives me something else that I need. I just wasn't using the attack at all. So in theory, it's a cool Pokemon. In practice, I never used it. That's why I played Houndoom instead of it. The other thing you can use, I don't have it with me, is Slugma, which is hilarious because that has an attack for 1 fire energy that discards a grass energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this is good against Lurantis, Decidueye, Giratina, because Double Dragon counts as a grass, anything with rainbow energy, so that's Vileplume Toolbox. You've got some cool things that can happen. In practice, again, it doesn't work out, surprise, surprise, but it's a cute idea if you want an extra option against, like, Giratina, I guess. Even though you probably shouldn't be having any issues with Giratina in the first place. We've also got, on the supporters then, 4 copies of N, 3 copies of Professor Sycamore. As opposed to the usual 4 Sycamore, 3 N, I decided to go this route. I think I prefer it because if your opening hand is like Sycamore and like a rare candy and a max potion, you don't want to discard those. You would rather shuffle them back into the deck. And also, it's a little while before you start taking a huge number of prizes. I think N is just way better in the early game, and that's why there's higher counts of him as opposed to Sycamore. I think the 7 draw supporters in total, though, is perfect. I wouldn't cut one of them, basically. We've also got 2 Lysandre. We're 2-shotting things, so you need to run 2 Lysandre, unfortunately. 1 Skyla as well as here. This is to search out rare candies as well as max potions, which can be super useful. I would consider upping the Skyla count. I know I've seen a lot of stage 2 decks recently that run like higher count of Skyla, and I'm sure a lot of the ways that people will build this is with a much higher count of Skyla and rare candy, and just try and get into the Incineroar turn 2 that way. I'm so far have had no problem getting into Incineroar turn 2. It just depends on I guess how your preference is to how you want to build it. Skyla also searches out Skyfield. It's a really solid card to have in the deck, and if you are going to drop like a Sycamore or an N, it probably has to be for a second Skyla, in my opinion. I definitely think it's been a useful card. Finally, for supporters, we're playing 1 Wally. Wally allows us, basically, spoiler, I'm only playing 3 rare candy. The reason for this is I cut one of them for a Wally. I feel like Wally is a rare candy that I can VS Seeker for, and I really like that. It helps me out also against decks that are playing Flareon EX, which I know isn't a lot of them, but if it comes up, it's great. The cool thing about Wally is that it basically means that if I Sycamore it away, it's not the end of the world. I can just VS Seeker it back, I can go Torracat, then Incineroar, or the other way around. I prefer it to just running 4 straight rare candy. I feel like it just increases my options. Like, it gives me a different way of getting into my Incineroar. The coolest thing about Wally, the absolute coolest thing, is if you go first against Vileplume decks, and you have a Vulpix and a Wally in your hand, you can Wally into Ninetales turn 1 and stop them from ever playing Forest of Giant Plants. Now, how cool is that, okay? And that alone is a reason to run this card, on the off chance that that ever happens to you. But if it does, how amazing would that be? You basically win the game from there. It's an incredible asset to have. But no, I like increasing my options, and I think Wally does that better than the 4th Rare Candy. Speaking of 4 item cards, we're also running 4 BS Seeker, 4 Ultra Ball, 3 Nest Ball. You could run Level Balls, but the only advantage you get to running Level Balls over Nest Ball is that you can search for Torracat with it. You can search for Ninetales with it too, but with 4 Ultra Ball and Wally, I feel confident enough that we can get into those Pokemon anyway. So 3 Nest Ball it is. It allows me to search out Flareon, Volcanion, Houndoom, and Oranguru, as well as other Littens as well. Usually when the game starts, what you're searching out is like, what you want to basically get is as many Littens down as possible, and then maybe a Vulpix. And then everything after that is like, that's afterthought. But you should prioritize getting the Littens and then getting the Vulpix down. So no, 4-3 split has been fine, and we need a lot of Pokemon search since we need Pokemon on our bench, of course. 3 Rare Candy, like I already explained, and 3 Max Potion. I think Max Potion is a fantastic card. Can I fit 4 in? No. Do I need 4? Probably not either. 250 is a lot of HP. You're tanking probably 2 hits before you even need to play the Max Potion, so, you know, most likely you're only tanking 1 hit, but it's usually enough. So I don't think you need a 4th one, but it's definitely a great asset in the deck. By the way, other supporters that you could run in this, just while I'm here. Delinquent is one that I was thinking of, because if your opponent plays Hex Maniac, then Parallel City, and that shuts off your Ninetales, you will now have 1 turn to get a Skyfield in play, and if you can't, Ninetales' ability will reactivate, and now all of a sudden you can't play your Skyfield again. I think maybe even a Hex Maniac would also solve this problem, because you could Hex to shut off your own Ninetales, then play your own Stadium. It hasn't come up in testing so far. It's just in theory, I think that could be a problem, and Delinquent would solve it. So make it that what you will. Hex Maniac as well, obviously you'd be good against Decidueye and Greninja, but I feel like we can win both those matchups anyway. Greninja's an awkward one, but if you just get set up, 250 HP is a lot for them to take down, and you've got Max Potions. So you have your outs is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, back onto the item counts, and we are running 1 Super Rod to round all that off. Only Pokemon Recovery I have is 1 Super Rod. I tried Brock, but I was just never playing it. So ultimately, I think 1 Super Rod's fine. Again, once you set up 1 Incineroar and like a Flareon, you should be fine. Even if they Parallel City you, worst case scenario, you can come in with the Flareon, you can attack. You have the GX attack. You do still have things like Volcanion and Houndoom that can attack. It's not going to be the end of the world. I think 1 Super Rod's been fine for recovery for me, so... try Brock if you want. I never personally got any use out of it. On the tools, we're running 3 copies of Lodestone. There's really no other tool I wanted on an Incineroar, and it's nice to be able to switch between them if I can't find my Max Potion. So, and obviously we have a lot of bench sitters with high enough retreat costs like Volcanion and Oranguru, so I felt Lodestone made a lot of sense. Now for the greatest tech potentially of all time, okay? Just be prepared to have your mind blown by this. We're running 1 bent spoon, okay? Now, Preface, this really should be a weakness policy. It's probably more likely that weakness policy will come in more handy than bent spoon will. But bent spoon's really cool, and I kind of just wanted to include it in the deck so I could show off the idea. The point is that if you have a bent spoon on an Incineroar GX, and your opponent tries to use Espeon EX to devolve all of your Pokemon, normally that basically puts you in an awful position because you go down to just Littens, and then if you rare candied into it, you can't get it back up. But Bent Spoon, if you have that on an Incineroar, means that he doesn't get put back in your hand because that's an effect of an attack. So he stays on the field. So if Espeon ever does become a big counter to GXs, Bent Spoon is your answer. That's what you run. It also stops weird stuff like Froakie, Bubble, and things like that, which could be relevant. You can put it on, I don't know, you can put it on Oranguru, and then Shadow Stitching won't shut him off. That works too. It has a few cool uses. I think ultimately, as cool and all as it is, weakness policy will probably save your ass a little bit more against Greninja and against Volcanion. Probably not against Lapras. Probably not against Volcanion, I mean. I think they could still get around you, but... there's a lot of water types going right now, so I think weakness policy would be a better idea. But Ben Spoon's just cool, so I wanted to show it off for that reason alone. Finally, for stadiums, we're only running 2 Skyfield. 2 is fine, we don't always need it in play, and especially if we're locking it in play with Ninetales, I think we don't need any more copies of it. So yeah, I'm fine with 2. I think that has been working out for me so far. And to round off the deck, we are just running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 copies of basic fire energy. 8 has been fine for me. You could try the sort of similar thing I did with Houndoom, which is where I cut one of these for an energy retrieval. I don't want to do that in this deck because we do still have a GX move to power up. We do still have Flareon EX's attack to power up. We have Volcanion to recycle fire energy if we need to. I think 8 copies has been fine. And yeah, that's the deck. I don't think there's anything extra that I wanted to discuss about it. I think I've sort of covered all that as I was going along. I hope you guys have a better sort of view of Incineroar. This is really just, out of my testing, this is the best list that I could come up with. And these are the best choices that I can make. Is it got a good place in the meta? I think it can beat Lurantis Vileplume. It can beat the Decidueye builds. The annoying thing about the Decidueye is if they're placing damage counters on your Littens and stuff like that, but Litten has 70 HP, so it's likely to survive a turn or two, especially with Max Potion and things like that. I think 1 Hex Maniac will be a really nice inclusion in the deck. I cannot find the space. A second Skyla will be nice. Again, the space is too tight. But yeah, no, it's been Timer Ball as well, actually. It's one thing you could consider, but I don't really like that in decks that aren't based around Forested Giant Plants. I can't think of anything else that I would want to throw in the deck, basically. I've gone through all the basic fire types. I think Oricorio will help it a little bit, definitely, and I think maybe just shifting to a new format that sort of that doesn't necessarily have a lot of water types in it might help Incineroar too. So yeah, just remember, weakness policy over Ben Spoon. I hate to say it, it's probably the best thing to do. Whew, that was a lot of talk about Incineroar. Guys, I hope you've learned something about the deck. I hope you've learned something about one of the certainly the more interesting GX Pokemon that we have in the format right now. And if you have any suggestions for the deck build or anything like that, or if you do just want to, I guess, play around with it yourself, I think this list is a good starting point. I think a lot of people are going to come to different conclusions with Incineroar and build it in different ways. One thing you can do for Pokemon as well, which I really don't like the idea of, is run like a 2-2 line of Flareon, the one that turns your stage 1s into fire types, and then run that alongside things like maybe Octillery, Raticate, Alolan Muck, just general stage 1s that are good in other matchups that you could run with it. And with Flareon turning them into fire types, they then counter Incineroar's attack. That's just something I've thought of in my head. I haven't tested any of that. I'm not sure how good it would be. I don't like the idea because 1 Hex Maniac would set you back so far, 1 like Garbodor would set you back so far, but again, all ideas to be playing around with. I'm sure final Incineroar lists might look very different from this, but this is as far as I've gotten so far, and I think it's pretty decent and a lot of fun for sure. So, this has been Joe for Vulpix. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.